You know, the flu epidemic of 1918 killed 50 million people around the world and over 600,000 here in the United States. Is this new virus coming out of China something we need to worry about at that scale? Check it out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. Going on in Wuhan, China. This is something that we all need to keep an eye on. Wuhan's a city of 11 million people. And right now, 17 people are dead. Over 600 are infected in China. Plus, there's infections that have shown up in Taiwan and in Thailand and one other Asian country. I don't recall which one. And the United States. We've got a guy up in Seattle or near Seattle who's in a hospital right now with this infection. Now, that's kind of the bad news. And in fact, they're using a robot to treat the guy up in Seattle. The good news appears to be, to the extent that you could call it good news, is that like some flu viruses, this virus seems to be fairly selective. You know, there are some flus that particularly hit kids and kill children. There are other flus that particularly hit elderly people and kill them. We had a flu 3 or 4 years ago that particularly hit people in their 40s and 50s and 30s, you know, in their mid-years. Well, this particular coronavirus seems to hit men who are elderly and in poor health. And arguably, that's good news. I mean, obviously, if you're male and elderly and in poor health, it's not good news. But epidemiologically, you know, for the possibility of this repeating like the 1918 flu pandemic, in which 500 million people were infected and 50 million died around the world, 675,000 people in 1918 in the United States died of that flu. Just think about that for a minute. 675,000 people. And by the way, in 1918, the population of the United States was only about 100 million people. It was a third of what it is right now. So that was like, you know, 7% of the U.S. population died. That would be like 2.5 million or 2.1 million today. So that would be a bad thing, right? Well, it looks like this particular virus is nowhere near as virulent as the 1918 flu. So, you know, to the extent that there is good news about this, that's, I suppose, the good news. And it appears that they've nailed down where it came from. It came from what's called a warm meat market. And a warm meat market, I've walked through these places. In fact, in one of the novels that I wrote, which was never published, it takes place in Taiwan. And Louise and I walked through the night market in Taipei, you know, when we were doing research for the book. And it's just amazing. I mean, it's an outdoor marketplace where people have built stalls and booths that have little canopies over them. You know, it's like going from tent to tent sort of thing, with open faces. And in the back is the stuff that they're selling, and then they're in the middle kind of shouting at you. And in one, there's cages of dogs, and the dogs are scared because they're for meat. And in the next one, there's cages of exotic animals that you don't even know what they are. And in the next one, there's cages of frogs. There was a whole place full of frogs. Another one that was nothing but fish. Another one that was snakes. And there was a guy who was with cobras, and he was taking the cobras, and he'd pull them out of the thing, and he would milk them into a cup, and he'd pour a couple of drops into half a dozen shot glasses, and then add a liquor to it. And he was selling those mostly to older men. It's supposed to be an aphrodisiac. Just behind the market was the red light district. So these men would come and get their snake venom, and then they'd go, you know, off and rent somebody. And then they would slit the snake down the stomach and catch its blood, and they would sell the blood mixed with liquor for about half the price of the venom to, I guess, men who thought the blood was just as good or couldn't afford the venom. And I mean, we stood there and watched this, and then they would sell the snake as meat. And apparently it was snakes in Wuhan who were carrying this virus. That's the best guess right now. So these open air, these so-called warm meat markets, where they were literally like, if you wanted dog meat, you'd pick out the dog you want. They'll kill it for you right there. They slaughter it, they'll skin it, pack it up, and give it to you. And you know, people stand around and watch. And there was one particularly tragic one. There were monkeys in a cage, and they were selling the monkeys for meat. And these monkeys looked, they were small. I don't know what kind of monkeys. They look kind of like macaws, I think, or macaques, M-A-Q, whatever. you could just see the humanity in their eyes. I mean, we share almost all of our DNA with them, and they knew what was going on. They could smell the death around them. So anyhow, these are the markets. I don't know if China's ever going to ban these kind of markets. I mean, this was back in the 80s when Louise and I walked through the one in Taipei, Taiwan. I don't know if it's even still there. They used to have markets similar to this in Bangkok, Thailand as well, where Louise and I have also been. And, and I'm guessing probably 50, 80 years ago they had them in Japan. They don't anymore. And South Korea, I'm not sure. But, this is kind of part of, it's kind of where Europe was maybe 100 years ago, with open-air meat markets. And you say, OK, I'll take that one. I'll take that pig, and they'll slaughter it for you right on the spot. I mean, this is how societies, as they become more prosperous, marketplaces like this become less visible and eventually go away. And, China's going to have to hit that post, I think, pretty soon, because this is the third time one of these diseases has come out. There was a bird flu that came out of there once, and then, of course, there was SARS, and that was from civet cats. And now we've got this Wuhan virus, this coronavirus, which is apparently from snakes. And, not good stuff. These are called zoonotic diseases, where humans get diseases from animals. And then, but now it's transferred from human to human.